We are back. After 8 months or so, Lightspeed Brothers is finally back with another video, and today I am posting because I'm a very simple person. I'm a man of my word, and if Peter goes on a podcast, I get back on YouTube. It's just that simple. Here's the thing. Today's video is kind of important to me because the idea behind it has bounced around in my head for years now. I've always wanted to make two very specific videos on this channel. I've wanted to make a video on my favorite NFL regular season games that involve the Philadelphia Eagles and my favorite NFL regular season games that did not involve the Philadelphia Eagles. Why the segmentation between the two? Well, because I am an Eagles fan, as you probably know by now, and so it really doesn't make sense for me to kind of combine those games together when the Eagles games are just going to supersede all the other ones because they mean more to me. And you might be wondering, Nick, why can't you just talk about your favorite Eagles games of all time? Why do you have to make it just about the regular season? Why does everything on this channel have to be so goddamn complicated? The reason why I'm not making a list of my favorite Eagles games of all time, period, full stop, is because that list is not interesting. And it's not interesting because you know what's going to be on there. You know what's going to be number one. And that is what I see across so many NFL lists that I personally read. You look up best NFL games of all time, best NFL games for a particular franchise or organization, and you look across different sources on YouTube, on Google, wherever you look, you are going to see the same matchups appear again and again and again. I'm not trying to diminish those lists. I'm not even trying to argue that the rankings are wrong. What I am trying to say is that I am personally irked that we have a wealth of football to observe over the course of an NFL regular season. We have 18 weeks of play, and there are always a plethora of special, exciting games that are worth talking about, that are worth shining a light on, and yet people seem so keen to forget about them a few months after they take place, whereas the games that take place in January and February are carved into stone. They're etched into marble forever, and the same talking points are regurgitated about them time after time again. To me, the overemphasis of these postseason games in these lists, it would be kind of analogous to like if a group of US historians only wanted to talk about the American Revolution and the US Civil War and nothing in between. They didn't want to talk about any of the interesting history in the 90 years between those two marquee events. They only wanted to talk about the marquee events themselves. And it's like, why? Why would you only want to talk about the things that everyone is familiar with, that everyone either has a perspective or an opinion on? That's what I think is going on with these NFL lists and why I don't find them interesting. There's no individuality to them. It is all kind of these consensus picks that everyone agrees are great, and that doesn't really tell me anything about what you value in football or kind of your unique relationship to football. You telling me that you really enjoyed Bills Chiefs divisional a few years back doesn't give me anything. The purpose of this video is to offer a favorite games list that actually involves subjectivity, that actually sees someone offering their opinions on games, as opposed to me just finding the most significant Eagles games played since 2013 and then ranking them based off their historical importance. That's not interesting, and that's what I see 99% of the time. The only other thing I want to mention before we get to the list itself is that I have not watched every Eagles game ever played. And so, if you feel there is a noteworthy game that is essential to the Eagles canon over the past decade and it's not on here, just realize I probably missed it. I was probably doing homework during that time. And to that point, I specifically am obliged to mention Eagles Bills 2023 is not on here. And it's not on here because I was studying for finals at the time. If I had watched that game, it would be on here. There's no doubt in my mind. The Kelly Green, the weather circumstances, the Jake Elliott make, the fact that it was so high scoring and it was resolved in overtime, it would have been a lock for this list. And I feel like a lot of people my age, that's most definitely in their top five Eagles regular season games of all time. I just have no reference point on it. I have no true love for it because I watched the last couple minutes of overtime and that's it. So I ultimately just can't put it on the list. Okay, now I get to talk about some games, but before I get to the formal top five, the best of the best, I want to talk about some honorable mentions, some games that I like quite a bit, but are not my absolute favorites. And those include Eagles Patriots 2015, a euphoric upset victory over a 10-1 Patriots squad. Eagles Packers 2019, this was a riveting Thursday night football game in which the Eagles won 34-27. Eagles Saints 2020, which people will know as the beginning of the Jalen era. Eagles Cowboys Christmas Eve 2022, which was an Eagles loss, and Eagles Commanders December 2024, which was also ironically, an Eagles loss. But the commonality between them doesn't stop at the Eagles loss. It doesn't stop that they were both high-scoring affairs. It's also that they had backup quarterbacks, which just kind of make those games extra special to me. The fact that we were able to compete with those teams with the backups make them very exciting for me. And quite frankly, I think each of them had a good chance of being on here had we won. In fact, because of my affinity for holiday games, had Minshew Mania overcome the Cowboys in that Christmas Eve showdown, that absolutely would have been on here. That would have at least supplanted number 5 and maybe would have been higher, but both of those games are naturally tainted by the fact that the Eagles lost.
Joshua Carty has it blocked again! This time Jordan Davis, the big man, looks for the icing on one big cake. Eagles hang on!
We start with Eagles-Rams 2025, this instantly iconic comeback victory, and I really don't think recency bias is at play here. In fact, I think if anything, this game can rise even higher on this list, but for right now, it's number 5. And one of the satisfying, but at times dismaying things about the Philadelphia Eagles over the past couple of years is their conservative style of play, which is largely determined by QB Jalen Hurts. On the one hand, he doesn't put the ball in jeopardy, and that really aids the Eagles in not making the critical mistake that other teams will make, that will cost other teams the game. But on the other hand, it can be nothing short of infuriating not seeing him throw past the sticks. He will continue to be critiqued and questioned the rest of his career because of the amount of checkdowns he takes, for his unwillingness to throw medium-sized shots in the middle of the field when he doesn't have to. Eagles-Rams presented a situation in which Jalen had no choice but to be a gunslinger. He had to be the gunslinger that some people want him to be in every single game that he is in, because the Eagles had just played their worst half of football since the supernatural funk that they endured at the end of 2023. And down 26-7, they could not rely on the legs of Saquon Barkley to guide them to victory. They had to rely on the arm of Jalen Hurts, and he delivered. He marched the Eagles down the field multiple times, getting the ball to Smith and A.J. Brown, who was just about ready to pull out a self-help book on the sidelines. But Brown made a choice that day. He decided not to retreat to his books, but instead decided to emasculate, just disgrace the Rams' defensive personnel, making them look like fellow Philly legend Joel Embiid with the flops and handing out some of the stiffest arms of the season thus far. And of course, you can't talk about this game without talking about the 2 clutch blocked field goals, one by Carter and one by Davis, that allowed the Eagles to eke out the victory. The one by Davis, along with the run back, is one of the most euphoric endings to a game the Eagles organization has ever had, and one of the great miracles of the franchise that did not involve the New York Giants. This was not a game with consistent entertainment value. It was a slog kind of in its first half, but it's hard to think of a better Eagles comeback than this.
Is it good? It is good! Philadelphia wins it!
We now have the first matchup between the Eagles and the Giants coming from 2017, and the first year the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, there were not a lot of signature Eagles games during the regular season. That's largely because the Eagles were routinely blowing out teams, and their last place finish the year before meant they were not playing the NFL's best. Looking at my notes here, they played just 3 playoff teams that year. The Chiefs, who they lost to, the Panthers, which was not a particularly memorable matchup, and the Rams, which was an exciting game, but one that I cannot put on here because of the emotions that came with the game at the time. This was the game where Wentz, who was in contention for MVP of the league at the time, tore his ACL because of a gutsy play at the goal line. It worked out for the Eagles in the long run. Had this game not transpired in the way it did, maybe we never get that Super Bowl. But at the time, this was as bittersweet as a win got. So I cannot put that game on here in good conscience. So the representative for the Super Bowl year is the Week 3 win over the Giants. It's a game that is on here mainly for its fourth quarter. The Giants scored 21 unanswered points late into the third and early into the fourth after the Eagles seemed to have pretty good control of the game. And then all of a sudden, it looked like the Eagles were returning to their true choke-happy form. Instead, a smart deep shot that drew a deserved PI flag set them up very nicely in the red zone for Corey Clement to punch it in. He, of course, does. The Giants and Eagles trade field goals, with Elliott tying it all up with less than a minute to play. And it seems like we're going to overtime. Surely the Giants cannot blow this, but they're the Giants, so they do. They leave 19 seconds left on the clock for the Eagles, and that's, of course, too much time for Carson Wentz, as we all know. Alshon Jeffrey takes a clutch step out of bounds after a reception, and he gives Jake Elliott the chance to be the hero and also, famously, to earn Carson Wentz's paycheck for the week. And Elliott missed a 52-yarder earlier in the day. This was not when 60-plus yarders were as commonplace as they are now, and he drills a 61-yarder to send the Eagles to 2-1. It was the type of game that the Eagles would have previously found a way to lose. There was little reason to believe that Elliott could have pulled this off given his struggles that day, and yet he makes it. And yet the Eagles win. And this boot came to be the start of something special in Philadelphia that year. They came up first in the NFC. They, of course, won the Super Bowl. This was where it all started that year. And I would really make the argument that this was the first signature win and the first chapter in this era of winning Eagles football. Since this moment, the Eagles are the second most successful franchise in the NFL. They have 2 Super Bowls. They are only trumped by the Kansas City Chiefs, but they are winners. Multiple Super Bowls, multiple MVP candidates, multiple years of being perennial contenders. And I think you can trace it back to this moment where the winds of change blew into Philadelphia, where they stopped losing games that they shouldn't have, where they stopped losing these nail biters, these classics, and they started winning them when it mattered. I think it all starts here.
All or nothing. Prescott dancing around. Just going to throw in the end zone. His catch is made by Lamb, but he's short!
So, Eagles-Cowboys, November 2023. I was very much going back and forth as to what Eagles-Cowboys game I should put on this list. And I'm not absolutely confident that this is my favorite, but in terms of rivalry games in the NFL, it's hard to get better than Philadelphia-Dallas Week 9 of the 2023 season. At this juncture, one of the hot topics in the NFL was whether the Eagles were legit. They had won in ugly fashion for much of the first 8 weeks, and many thought their record was a mirage. Dallas, meanwhile, had just beaten the snot out of the Rams, and in this primetime game, it felt like the momentum of the NFC playoff race could swing over the course of 60 minutes of playtime. And what followed was a thrilling, unpredictable fight that saw multiple lead changes, the usual great chippiness that comes with a Philly-Dallas game, 7 fourth down attempts in total, and great performances from both quarterbacks, which is kind of hard to come by in this era of Hurts-Dak, because they frequently elude each other. For some reason, they just find ways to not play each other. One guy's hurt, one's not. And so this is kind of a rarity in this era where both the Eagles and Cowboys are both pretty good teams. The Ferguson stop inches from the goal line is one of the great moments in the history of my life. Not in Eagles history, but for me personally, it is a morphine drip of a football moment. I will not be as happy at the birth of my first child than I was when this first aired, when I saw this live. It is pure bliss in football form. But of course, the Eagles offense just decides to kind of sour it, add an asterisk next to it, because they shut down for the rest of the night. They are functioning perfectly fine up to this moment. Our team has the momentum, but they just decide to become anemic all of a sudden. They start playing scared. Dallas cuts it to within 5, but within the 2-minute warning, we still should be able to put this away comfortably because the defense makes a stop with 1 minute and 17 seconds left. We should be able to run this out, and we try to do that. But the problem is A.J. Brown is such a monster of a man, and his shoulder is so massive that as he's in motion and DeAndre Swift is coming out of the backfield, they collide. A.J. is completely unfazed, but DeAndre Swift, a professional NFL running back, a man's man, gets knocked out. It looks like Muhammad Ali just knocked him upside the head. He fumbles the ball. We thankfully recover, but still have to punt it away, and Dallas gets the ball back, and then the most absurd sequence yet happens. The final minute of this game is one of the baddiest you will see in any NFL contest because so much ball movement and field position is determined not by clutch playmaking, but because of laundry. Because both of these teams are making egregious mistakes. They are practically begging the refs to throw flags on the field, and it makes for such great drama because hope is being given to one team, then it's being ripped away, it's back and forth, it's a roller coaster, and then finally we get to the climax. Dak gets it to his man as time expires. He's about 5 yards away from the end zone, but the Eagles swarm, complete the tackle, and win this game 28-23. I have watched that play more times than I'd like to admit, and it is utterly miraculous that a play this good happens in the same game as the Ferguson one. I mean, this is even more pure dopamine. And as an outsider, the end of this game is just perfect, unpredictable football. As a stakeholder, though, it, as a fan, it's a bit more because you're really on the emotional roller coaster wave. You have something to care about here. It is, bragging rights. It is division on the line, and it's just the type of game you'll never forget. Where you were when you watched it, because of the highs and lows, and it's a classic entry in this storied rivalry.
For the first time for Philadelphia, but they give to McCoy. Big hole, and the move! McCoy through the snow! Touchdown!
Eagles-Lions 2013, it's one of the most classic snow games of all time. I could reasonably call this the game that solidified me as an Eagles fan. The Eagles-Lions Week 14 matchup is one of the most iconic in Eagles history. If you were to look at a more objective list of best Eagles games, this will probably make it on there because of the weather. It has a picturesque opening with a harsh blizzard befalling the city of Philadelphia until about midway through the second quarter, but the snow has an effect on the game throughout. The key here, though, is that it doesn't ruin it. The magic of this game is that we both get the clumsiness, turnovers, and dropped balls of a snow game, but it's not exclusively a run affair. One look at the highlights, and you'll see both Stafford and Foles are playing with a fair deal of gusto. They are not taking the day off. Stafford has some beautiful shots down deep, and Foles has a great TD to Deshaun Jackson that I quite honestly totally forgot about. It's a beautiful pass, beautiful play, and you just get all the benefits of a snow game without it turning into this run-heavy defensive slog where teams are just trying to trade field goals. What's cool is that there really does feel like a rising action to this game. As the snow recedes, the offenses become more emboldened. Scoring is particularly frequent in an electric fourth quarter. And I can't say the tempo of the game is one that I've ever seen replicated because of the weather factor. But of course, the star of the game is Shady. McCoy rushed for a franchise best at the time, 217 yards with a pair of touchdowns, each at least 40 yards in length. And seeing him gracefully weave in and out of these gaps as seemingly everyone else was just befuddled around him, Eagles players included, it was mesmerizing as a 10-year-old. It's mesmerizing as a 22-year-old to see a field full of professional athletes and to see just one player rise above them all and take over a game. It remains extraordinary. It's one of my favorite performances from an individual player across any sporting event that I've watched. And this game has a lot of personal importance to me, but the personal importance is derived from its true singularity. What I really want to emphasize here is that this game is not special to me because it was Nick's first Eagles game. It is Nick's first true Eagles game because it is special. That's what I want to emphasize. It's not like I just saw this on the TV one day and was like, oh, I'm an Eagles fan now. I had watched Eagles games before, but I noticed something was different about this. I noticed that this was special, and I was like, I think I kind of want to watch this week in and week out now. And I think I always would have become an Eagles zealot. I think I always would have eventually become interested in them, but this definitely accelerated the process. It really made a strong impact on me, and truly, this is one of the best games the city of Philadelphia has ever hosted. There's a reason it's this high. And I don't mind seeing this, I guess, as much in certain lists because it's not like this. It's not indicative of an Eagles era. It is not this obvious playoff matchup. It's just an extraordinary game. And that's why I like seeing it on these lists because it's not kind of the most obvious thing to talk about, but it is a true singular game in Eagles history and one that I just have a lot of positive feelings towards.
Here's a shot for Smith. He's got it!
And now we get to number one, which I don't think a lot of people would expect, Eagles-Chiefs 2023. And so to start, what the NFL has done better over the course of my lifetime is building up heavyweight clashes. With each passing year, the big games of the year seem to be promoted with more fanfare than ever, and I'll never get sick of it. I love seeing two winning teams meeting late in the season in prime time, and that's what we got here. And I especially like it when it's my team against one of the most despised teams in the National Football League. And number one is the embodiment of that. It is a Monday Night Football clash between the 8-1 Philadelphia Eagles and the 7-2 Kansas City Chiefs, a rematch of the previous year's Super Bowl. I just got home from Thanksgiving break in order to watch this game at my house, and I don't think I've ever been as animated about a regular season game as I was with this one. It doesn't have as many great plays as the snow game, but the emotions to me are more present. It's not two middling teams and an enemy I don't really care about. It's the NFL's modern day dynasty against the Birds, the team who just eked out a win against them in the Super Bowl. And I love this game for so many reasons. I love it for the outstanding performance of DeAndre Swift. I love it for the Tony drop, and I love it especially because the defense got us this win. The worries about the 2023 Eagles defense, they were warranted. And hell, I feel like I was jumping up and down saying this team was not that good despite its record because of the fact that a team could gash us at totally inopportune moments. They could have their way with this defense. And so it was that I wanted to see this defense play well to prove that we could truly be contenders. This feeling was amplified even more by the fact that the defense did not uphold its side of the bargain in the Super Bowl. They were the reason we couldn't overcome the Chiefs in Super Bowl 57. I so desperately wanted to see the defense play well in this game, and they did. The offense was not humming this night. They got the job done. They were able to win, but the defense secured this win. They were the reason we got this W, and even if the quality was to not be sustained, to see them produce that crucial fumble against Kelsey, to see Sweat get to Mahomes on the second to last play of the game, those plays are as cathartic for me as any Eagles plays are. And they ring different than the Dallas ones because the Dallas ones I can always take glee in. Like a smile comes over me afterwards. It's like, I'm having fun at their expense. But when those plays are made against the Chiefs, I don't feel glee. I don't feel joy. I feel pride. I feel really proud that the Eagles are able to look a team this historically good in the eye and say, we are able to match you. We are able to beat you at times. And for that reason, these games put me in a different mindset. They have a different tenor for me. I'm not on my phone texting my friends as much during them. They're just different. They're more intense. They're more exhilarating than all of these other ones. And even though kind of the Detroit one, it has that added factor of, I was young and it got me and made more of an impression on me, these ones just matter more. And the level of defensive play here, it holds a deeper significance now after the Super Bowl because it feels like, if not a blueprint, at least a precursor to what we saw in the Super Bowl and what truly mattered above all else, the pass rush, the ferocity of it, the violence of it at times. It definitely peeks its head out here in this game, and it's hard not to wonder if Fangio saw these moments where Mahomes is disrupted, where he really seems to be thrown off script, and thought to himself, I think I can use this. I think I can use these moments to figure out how to disturb this team when it matters most, and that's exactly what he did. And maybe I'm drawing connections where there are none, but it just adds another layer to this game. And for Hurts, this is not a great game from him, but it is his performance makes for great drama, where he's holding on to the ball for too long. He's not going deep enough downfield, but he makes the right plays at the right moments to put this team ahead and produce a comeback victory, which is yet another element to this game. We're down 10 going into halftime, which is yet another mirror, but this time to the previous Super Bowl, where the Chiefs had to come back against us. Now it's the opposite way around. We have to fight through the adversity, and that's what we do. And what Jalen does here, it is emblematic of the winning style of football that he likes to play. And that deep shot to Smith, which definitely calls forward to the dagger that was ultimately delivered in Super Bowl 59, that play, followed by the tush push, is just one of my favorite Eagles sequences of all time. And it's hard to, not choose a game where a tush push is significant because ultimately that has been so integral to the Eagles' identity over the past couple of years. Smash mouth, exerting our will on you, and it's going to be gone after this year. There's no doubt in my mind the NFL will get rid of it. So it's nice to have a game where the power of that play is exemplified in the number one slot. And so it's a game that means a lot to me and for a lot of reasons. This game is on another level for me. It is the perfect concoction of an Eagles regular season game that has one of my favorite squads of all time, despite how this season played out. It has a true Eagles rival on the other side of the ball that I have a deep disdain for. It is late into the season. Both teams do not have a lot of losses to their name. Bragging rights are on the line. Playoff seeding implications are there. It's a rematch of the previous year's Super Bowl. There are iconic plays on both sides of the ball, and there is a mood here that I don't think I can get into with any other Eagles matchup. And for that reason, it has to be number one for me. And so I hope everyone out there that has watched this video to its end, you are able to share some of your favorite regular season Eagles matchups because I'm truly interested in hearing about them. And yeah, just hope you enjoyed the video.